Hello dear viewers, hope you all are doing good. Welcome to Sensi Education, where we explore everything commerce. I am Shana Quad, help you to make your concepts easier. So far in our KSET 2024 Commerce Paper 2 classes, we have covered concepts related to business environment. We looked into different types of factors that affect our businesses. In detail, we studied about economic environment, right? And in our previous video, we looked into concepts like FERA, FEMA, consumer dispute agencies, and everything was covered. If you have missed the video, attaching the link in the description box, please go through it. In today's video, we will learn more about business environment and then also look into the concept related to international business. So let's get started. The first concept for the day is planning commission. Planning commission was a commission that was brought into existence or was introduced for economic growth and development. It had its own set of rules and policies and plans for growth and development of the economy. Planning commission was under the leadership of Jawaharlal Nehru, and he was the first chairman of this commission. Okay, this commission came into existence in 1951. Okay, one of the very important concept under this planning commission is that they implemented 5-year plans. Planning commission implemented 5-year plans, and so far we have 12 5-year plans. So far 12 5-year plans were implemented. The last plan was from 2014 to 2017. It was observed that planning commission was getting outdated and was not coping up with the changes and advancements in the economy and for social growth and development. So planning commission was terminated and was replaced by NITI Aayog in 2015. Very important. NITI Aayog in 2015. NITI stands for National Institute for Transforming India. For transforming India. Okay. This NITI Aayog is also known as Policy Think Tank. Policy Think Tank. It was more flexible and it was more focused towards the recent changes in the economy for growth and development, focused on national security, and had a decentralized and inclusive approach for economic planning. So this was about Planning Commission and NITI Aayog. It is about how Planning Commission was terminated and NITI Aayog replaced Planning Commission in 2015. So far we had 12 5-year plans and the last was from 2014 to 2017. So NITI Aayog was about more flexible and according to the recent development in the economy, and it had more modernization and inclusive approach for economic planning. Since Planning Commission was getting outdated and was not coping up with the recent changes in the economy, NITI Aayog was introduced. So this is an important concept related to Planning Commission and NITI Aayog. So important points to remember here is Planning Commission replaced by NITI Aayog. NITI Aayog also known as Policy Think Tank, or what might be the full form of NITI Aayog. So yes, I request you to again to note down the points. It will be very easy when we are revising for MCQs, because I feel noting down helps us to recall. So it will be easy when we are looking for the answers for the MCQs. I hope this is clear. Now let's look into the concept of New Industrial Policy of 1991. So, New Industrial Policy of 1991 is one of the significant or important policy in the economic history. New Industrial Policy of 1991. Okay, this was introduced on July 24, 1991. Okay, under the Finance Minister Manmohan Singh and then Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao. Okay, what is this policy about? What changes did it bring into? Why it's one of the significant in the economic history is that it introduced the concept of LPG, that is liberalization, privatization, and globalization. Very important concept. We will be looking in detail about LPG. Okay, it also brought significant changes into MRTP Act. Fine. It increased foreign investment with boost in the economy. Boost in economy and income. Okay, very important. New Industrial Policy of 1991 on July 24, 1991 under the guidance and leadership of Finance Minister Manmohan Singh and then Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao. What was this about? What were the features of this policy? Is that it introduced LPG, that is liberalization, privatization and globalization. MRTP Act was, there were significant changes in the MRTP Act and foreign investment and boost in economy and income. First, let us look into MRTP Act and then we will go in detail about LPG, which will cover both the points of foreign investment and boost in the income and economy. Now let's first look into MRTP Act. Now, MRTP Act of 1969. MRTP stands for Monopolies and Restrictive Trade Practices. So, this Act, MRTP Act of 1969, prevented monopolies, prevented unfair trade practices. Okay, a commission called, the features were prevention of monopolies, right, or concentration of economy, or prevention of unfair trade practices. Again, to control and to prevent monopolies. Here, under this Act of 1969, MRTP Commission was set up. Commission was set up to look into if there are any unfair trade practices to prevent monopolies and to have a smooth functioning of businesses. So soon this was terminated as it did not cope up with the modern marketing activities, right, with modern marketing approaches. So a new act called Competition Act of 2002 was implemented. Very important point again, MRTP was terminated and Competition Act of 2002 was implemented. MRTP was replaced by Competition Act of 2002. This was again to promote smooth functioning of business, to look after unfair trade practices, control monopolies, and to protect the interest of consumers, to inform them about the rights. So this was about Competition Act of 2002. So under this, CCI commissions, CCI, a regulatory body, was introduced. CCI stands for Competition Commission of India. So this was a regulate body to look after any unfair trade practices and to investigate into matters related to it and take measures to protect consumer needs and to protect the business standards. So this was about MRTP Act of 1969 and Competition Act of 2002. Now let us study about LPG, that is liberalization, privatization and globalization. Now the concept of LPG stands for liberalization, privatization and globalization. Again, very important concepts is that it was brought under the policy of New Industrial Policy of 1991. So LPG came into existence in 1991, right? We just looked into it, was under Finance Minister Manmohan Singh and then Prime Minister Narasimha Rao, right? Okay, so now let's look into about LPG. L stands for liberalization. What does liberalization means? Free, not being very strict, liberal, right? Liberalization means opening up economy for foreign trade and investment, or for trade and investment with the rest of the world. So what happened before 1991? The foreign trade and investment, or the trade or the investment with the rest of the world, was very strict or was very limited. With liberalization, there came freedom to expand, freedom for exports and imports, freedom to bring in capital, technology, investment, right? So liberalization is nothing but opening up the economy for foreign trade and investment, and it had various advantages like boost in earnings, freedom to expand for more production. Since the economy was open for foreign investment, there was more capital, there was transfer of raw materials, technology, investment. So this was about liberalization. Next, P stands for privatization. Privatization. With privatization, it is encouraging private sector participation and competition. Okay, until 1991 it was all about public sector, or it was all about government and state government. With privatization, there was encouragement in the private sector participation. So the privatization of PSU was by selling of the equities or to the public, which is known as disinvestment. Okay, so privatization is nothing but encouraging private sector. Transforming ownership from public sector to private sector through disinvestment. Okay, so this is about privatized sector, participation of private sector. Next, G stands for globalization. Globalization, that is opening up the economy for business with rest of the world. For business with the rest of the world is known as globalization. So with globalization, there was export promotion, there was import, and there was more of capital investment, there was foreign direct investment, there was FII. It was nothing but expanding the business throughout the world. It is a globalization, which also means international business, that is having business with the rest of the world. Business across the national borders is our what is that? International business. So first, I hope this concept is clear. LPG was under the was one of the feature, or was implemented under new industrial policy of 1991. It was under the guardianship of Manmohan Singh. He was a finance minister and then prime minister, Mr. Narasimha Rao. It was in 1991. What is LPG? Liberalization, privatization and globalization. Liberalization means opening up the economy for foreign trade and investment, which brought in more capital, more raw materials, more technology, which increased the standard of living and income. Whereas privatization means encouraging the private sector for participation. There was transfer of ownership from public sector to private sector. Next, globalization is opening up the economy for the business with the rest of the world, which again increased exports, foreign trade, foreign investment, which made it easy for businesses with the rest of the world. Now let us look into detail about globalization and international business. So I hope this information is clear to you, and it's very important. The year might be the finance minister, or under whom guidance was it brought, or the meaning related to the specific terms and what were the features of it. If we know the meaning or what does it stands for, I think this information will be very easy to understand. Now let's look into globalization and international business. So now let's look into the main topic, that is international business. International business is nothing but transactions of capital, transactions of goods and services, right? Capital, technology across national borders, right? International business having transactions of goods, services, capital, technology, raw materials, everything relate across the national borders with the rest of the world. International business includes the concept of globalization, right? Which is transactions, or let us like opening up the economy for global business. Right? Our MNCs, TNCs, MNC stands for multinational company, TNC stands for transnational company, are global companies which operate in more than one countries, which have operations or business in more than one countries, are known as MNCs and TNCs, right? With globalization, there are a lot of advantages like market diversification, foreign investment is coming in, right? There's inflow of foreign investment, or there might be increase in capital, new technology, innovation, high standard of living. There are various advantages of globalization, whereas there are disadvantages too, like there might be cultural differences, or sometimes there might be dominance of foreign industries, right? They might start dominating, or it might be again environmental sustainability can be challenging, right? There might be over usage of resources, correct? All such there are disadvantages. So what is this concept about? International business. Our next part of the chapter is international business, which is nothing but having transactions or having businesses with the rest of the world, with goods and services, capital, technology, everything, which includes the concept of globalization. What is globalization? Having opening up the economy for global business, having business with the rest of the world. Okay, so our TNCs, MNCs are all our global companies, right? So there are various advantages of going global, having businesses across the world, like market diversification, access to more market, more raw materials, foreign investment, attracting more of foreign investment, which will increase in capital, new technology and innovation, high standard of living, improve in the income, right? Where there can be disadvantages to cultural differences or dominance from foreign industries, or there might be over usage of resources, and environmental sustainability can be challenging. So this is about globalization. Now let's look into one of the important topic, that is modes to entry into globalization. Modes of entry in international business. That is, how can we enter into international business? What are the ways we can have business with the foreign countries? So first one is exports. What is exports? Physical movement of goods and services. When I am exporting, when my goods are moving from my home country, which we are producing, is moving to another country, is known as export. When we are purchasing the goods of foreign country, it is known as imports. So exports is physical movement of goods and services, right? One way. Next, it can be international licensing. So what is license? License is nothing but acquiring permission to use their intellectual property or brand name, trademark, work method, right? There are two parties, licensor and licensee, where we are acquiring or using an agreement to use their work method. Okay, let me write down. To use intellectual properties. Right? Next, it can be franchising. So franchising allows a company to use and the company's name to run the businesses, right? In franchising also there are two parties, like franchisee and franchisor, and the franchisor has more control over the business. So this is about franchising. Next, we have contract manufacturing. Contract manufacturing. See, as the word suggests, contract manufacturing, it means when one company outsources for production or manufacturing. Outsources means passing on the responsibilities or giving a contract to another company to do it on their behalf. So outsources, it's a contract for manufacturing where one company hires another company for production, hiring, third party, or outsourcing for production activities. Okay, so the next concept can be again contract marketing, which means hiring the third party for handling all their marketing activities. Hiring third party to handle marketing services of the contractors. Contract marketing. Then contract management. Same thing, where the contract is given to another company to manage my company's day-to-day operations or management activities. Okay. The next concept is joint venture. As the word suggests, when two companies join or come together to form a new business. To form a new business. Right? It is joint venture. Next, it can be mergers, where one company merges with another company. For example, there's a company A in India which merges with company B in USA. So it means mergers. Next, it can be acquisition, when one company acquires or buys the another company. Next, takeover, when one company, a company of home country, takes over the control in a company of a foreign company. Next, it can be FDI, that is foreign direct investment. One of the very important concept, and we have to look into detail about what is FDI. For now, FDI is investing in foreign companies to acquire ownership. Investment by might be individuals or businesses to acquire ownership, FDI. And there can be next counter trade, which means exchanging goods and services for goods and services is known as counter trade. Or there's also known as turnkey project, which means a contractor is given the project of setting up the asset, and then it is turned out to the another company for starting its operations, which it means turnkey project. For example, airports, and the project of building up or the constructing or setting up the airport is given to one of the contracting company. Then someone else starts its operation, right? So it's a turnkey project. So these are the ways of entering into international business. What's it about? Exports, physical movement of goods and services. Licensing is acquiring permission to use their intellectual property or agreement to use the intellectual property. Next, franchising, using another company's name to run the businesses. Contract manufacturing, management or marketing is about hiring the third party to look after their respective operations. Joint venture is when two companies come together and form a new business. Mergers, acquisitions and takeover, as the name suggests, it's very easy to understand. Counter trade is when goods and services are exchanged for goods and services. Turnkey project, when contract is given for a firm to set up the asset or set up the project, and then the operations are started over by another company. FDI, very important concept. We will be looking into detail about this. For now, just to understand the meaning, it's nothing but investment made by the individuals or businesses in the foreign companies to acquire the ownership. So this is about modern modes of entry into international business. I hope you are following the flow of information. Again, requesting you to note down. It will be very easy for revisions and for recalling of the concepts. Now let's look into the important concept, that is theories of international trade. Now, theories of international trade. So the first theory is theory of absolute advantage. Theory of absolute advantage. Very important. It was given by Adam Smith. Okay. In his book, Wealth of Nations. Okay. So, theory of absolute advantage by Adam Smith. Very important. What does this theory states? It specifies that countries should manufacture and export goods and services in which they have advantage over to produce same output as other countries in fewer resources. Okay, so the theory of absolute advantage. It states that, Adam Smith states that countries should manufacture and export those goods and services in which they have advantage. Advantage of what? To produce the same number of quantity in fewer resources. So it is production of those goods and services in which they have advantage. So this is about theory of absolute advantage. Next, second theory is theory of mercantilism. It is one of the oldest theory of international trade. Theory of mercantilism is one of the oldest theory of international trade and given by Thomas Mann. Okay, given by Thomas Mann. This theory states that countries' exports should be more than imports. There should always be trade surplus. Okay, it means countries' exports should be more than imports. And it also states that countries' wealth can be determined by its gold and silver holdings. Okay, so this is about theory of mercantilism. I hope it's very easy to follow, that it's one of the oldest theory of international trade given by Thomas Mann. Very important who has given and what does it state. Sometimes in MCQ it might be like the statement or the specification of particular theory is given and might be asked like which theory was it, or there might be theory to match it with the who had given that particular theory or who had proposed it. So theory of mercantilism was Thomas Mann. Next we have theory of comparative advantage. Comparative advantage given by David Ricardo. Given by theory Ricardo. It states that trade can be still beneficial if the countries are not efficient in producing goods and services. So if, for example, if country A is not efficient in producing a particular goods and services, whereas country B is efficient in that, then they can import, country A can import that. Whereas if country B is inefficient in certain product, it can import it from country B. So trade can be beneficial even if the some country is not beneficial in producing particular goods and services. So this is about comparative advantage given by David Ricardo. Next, very important is theory of Haxter-Olvin. It's also known as H&O theory. Okay, sometimes it's like H&O theory or factor proportion theory. Factor proportion theory, one of the important theories. Okay, this theory considers factors of production. What is that? Land, labor, capital and man, right? It states that countries with more labor should produce labor intensive goods. Okay, and countries with capital should produce capital intensive goods. Okay, this was about H&O theory or factor proportion theory. It stated that what factor a country has in abundant, it produces that particular goods and services using that factor, which stated that countries with abundant labor produces labor intensive products, whereas countries with capital abundant produces capital intensive products. Right? Now there was a next theory, that is Leontief paradox theory, which stated that even if US was a capital abundant theory, it was still producing labor intensive goods. So Leontief theory challenged or contrary to H&O theory. Contrary to H&O theory. So very important, these two theories are interconnected, and there might be question like which theory challenged H&O theory, what was H&O theory about. Okay, so H&O theory is about using the factors of production in whatever the factor the country is abundant, they use that factor to produce goods and services. But Leontief challenged that no, it's not correct, because US, even if they are capital intensive, they are still producing labor intensive goods and services. So this was about theories of international trade. So this is it for today's video. If you have any queries, you can put down in the comment section and I will try to help you out as soon as possible. Please don't forget to subscribe, hit like and share this video with all the KSET aspirants, and see you in the next video. Until then, happy learning.